All right, in this video we are going to talk about how to declare two-dimensional arrays, and then once they're declared, how to access the elements in the array, and then how to change the elements that are in the array. All right, so a 2D array is really just kind of like a table, right? We've already talked about regular arrays, and they're essentially like a list of things, right? So a 2D array you can kind of think about as a table of things. All right, so first, how would you set up and declare a 2D array in your program? Well, first off, you would choose the type of the elements that you're going to store in the array. So in this case, I'm going to do of type int. All right, and then what you would do is put two sets of brackets after the type. Okay, so this tells you, hey, the array is going to be of type int, and then here these two brackets tell you that it's a two-dimensional array, like a table of numbers. All right, then pick a name for the array. I'm just going to call this one 2D array, like so. Then the assignment operator and the new keyword, and then int again, right? This type here, int, should match this one, or at least, well, that's a more advanced topic, so I'll skip that. And then two sets of brackets, all right? Inside these brackets, then you would give the number of rows in your table and the number of columns in your table. So if I just said 2 rows, 4 columns, like so, okay? So that would set up a two-dimensional array in your that your program can use. All right. So when this statement is executed inside the memory somewhere, you can kind of think about a setup like this. You would have a 2D array, okay, a table that kind of looks like this, and you'd have 2 rows right here, like this. The first row would be indexed by 0, right, and the second row by a 1. And then you'd have 4 columns, and the indices there would run at 0 for the first column all the way up to 3 for the last column there. And since we're talking about ints here, Java would go ahead and initialize all of those values to 0 for you. So basically you'd have a little table of zeros like this, and this is the body of the table here. Okay, so that's how you would set that up, or one way to set it up inside your program. All right, and then once you have that set up, then a couple of very common things that you would want to do is to maybe change the elements that are in that table. So let's take a look at that. So here is how we would declare an array, right? And we'll talk about another way to do that as well after we do this. So let's say we want to change a value in the array, right? So what you would do is put the name of the array, and then 2 sets of brackets, and then in the first bracket you would put the row essentially that you want to change, and in the second bracket the column at which you want to make a change. So let's say we had row 1, right, column 2, let's say, and we wanted to change that to a 6 instead of a 0. Okay. So the effect that would have, right, on this 2D array is what Java would do is say, okay, I'm going to go to the 2D array like this, and I'm going to look at row 1, right? So that would be right here, and column 2, so right here. And it's going to look at what's in the intersection of those two, and it would change it, right, in this case to a 6. All right, so that changes that value to a 6, and now that's what your 2D array would look like. There would be a 6 right here, okay? And likewise, if you want to use any of the array elements, you can write expressions that involve an expression that looks like this. So let's say we wanted to verify, hey, did that actually change it out? Or we just want to get at the number that's stored in that part of the table and print it out. again, what you would do is type the name of the array and then two sets of brackets for a two-dimensional array, right? And then the row and the column that you want to access. So in this case, 1, 2, let's say. All right, and that should print a 6 for us when we run it. Okay. So you can see here what Java did was go to 2D array, look at row 1, column 2, the intersection of that, right? And that would give that 6 and print it out. And just like with arrays, you could use these expressions to do anywhere you would use a variable name in any kind of expression. So if you want an arithmetic expression or some other kind of expression, you could go ahead and do that. So in this case, we should get 2 times 6 plus 1. So that should come out to be 13. Right. Okay. All right. So that's the basics of a 2D array, how to declare one, and then how to change the value in an array, and then how to use those array elements in expressions or access the array element. Also, I just want to show you another way to declare small arrays. So let's say if you have a really small array that you want to declare, what you can do is use similar notation to that curly brace notation that you use for arrays. So I'm going to declare another 2D array called numbers, and I'm just going to use a different type, double in this case, just to show you a different example. And then I'm going to use the curly brace notation. All right, so inside the curly braces, what you would have is a list of other arrays. Okay, so I'm going to make some other arrays in there. So you can see I have one array right here, and then I'm going to put another array like so. And then another one. All right, make sure that looks okay. Okay, and so here you can see how I would declare a 2D array using the curly brace notation, similar to what I did, or how you do it with regular arrays. All right, and so what that would do is it would basically set up an array called numbers. All right, and that would have 3 rows in it. So the number of rows would look like this. And the first row would be row 0, then row 1, then row 2. And that's because you have 3 arrays inside the original curly braces that we had. And then each of these curly braces has 2 elements, so there would be 2 columns here. You can have it in Java where these have different numbers of columns, but I don't think we really need to go into that for purposes of the final project. All right, and so what you would end up with is inside the memory, right, you'd have 1.2, 3.4, and then 5.6, and 7.8, and 2.1, and 0.9. All right, so that's the two-dimensional array or table that is set up in the memory on this statement here. And we can just verify that if we did something like system.out.println and then numbers, and then we chose row, let's go with row 1, column 1. Now let's go rows 1, 0. Okay, so what that would be, right, is again, just like before, that would be row 1, which is right here, and then column 0, right, because of that 0 right there, and the number at the intersection is 5.6, like this. So this should print out 5.6 when we run it. Okay, and you can see it did. All right. So these are the two basic ways, right, that you can declare an array, a 2D array. This one you would probably want to use if you had a really large array, 1,000 by 1,000 or something like that. Then you would probably use this way over this way, because that's a lot to type out. For small arrays, though, you can certainly use this method right here. Okay, all right, and that is it on this video.